All right, guys, so we're going to talk about this today. Now, I woke up this morning about around 6. The announcement was already allowed to be published well before that, so videos have already been released today. But I was seeing in the content creator chat and some other chats that there was some positive things about this change, and then there was a lot of negatives as well. I was honestly thinking it was going to be a little bit better than what it actually is 5 minutes into the video, and I am honestly kind of disgusted about these changes because the points they make, while it's true for players who are later in the game, like it is true for me, it's true for a lot of players I do account takeovers for, but it's also very much not true for a huge number of players that I've done takeovers for, and the issues they're saying are easy to overcome are absolutely not easy to overcome. So we're gonna jump in here, watch some of this video together. I'm probably going to skip around a little bit, so if you want to watch it on your own, then you can just go to the Discord, click the video, watch it from there. But I'm going to jump around a little bit and talk about the changes, and I want to hear from you guys as well. What do you think about this? Is it a good change? Is it a bad change? Is it a horrible change? Are you just kind of fed up and like, why am I even playing this game? Let me know down below. Let's get started. We're starting at the 30-second mark, basically.
With different tactics and teams, switching things up each week. Let's dive in and take a closer look at those who don't have specific champions in their collection. We want you to experiment with different tactics and teams, switching things up each week. Let's dive in and take a closer look at what's coming. First up, we're setting the turn limit at 1,000 turns. Auto battling.
That's a good change. I don't mind that at all. 1,000 turn limit, no
Hydra
issues.
could easily take over an hour. So we're aiming to cut down the time by at least half an hour.
That's good.
We now need to build teams that do damage faster, rather than teams built for a war of attrition.
This is right here. You have to build teams that do damage faster versus a war of attrition is very bad for a lot of players. I'll explain that a little bit later on, but it's also not 100% true, because if you build your team super quick, then you're going to cycle around to the mark of a Hydra, well, not the mark of the Hydra, the Serpent's will quicker, and then you're going to reduce your damage by 100%. So your teams are doing damage faster, they're going faster, but they're also getting the Serpent will buff up more because they're killing the heads so quickly, which is really weird, and it's going to make the Hydra very interesting.
With a few adjustments, you'll have no problem reaching the damage numbers needed to get your usual rewards.
That's not true at all.
Moving on, we're changing how the Serpent's will buff works. Most importantly, and brace yourselves folks, it now reduces damage by 100% for a newly grown Hydra head. Yep, you read that right. Complete damage reduction. You won't be able to nuke a newly grown head straight out of the gate anymore. Hold on though, there's good news too. If two heads regrow at the same time, only one of them will get the Serpent's will buff. Champions have gotten stronger since the Hydra initially reared its heads. What with the...
All right, so talking about that, they're saying that the Serpent's will buff has changed. Basically now, it's going to reduce 100% of the damage versus 75% of the damage. That is good to nerf Trunda teams, but it's also bad for a lot of teams as well. Granted, most teams aren't killing heads even with a 75% damage reduction. The only champion really doing that was Trunda. A few other teams could, but it's very, very end late game stuff. This is not an issue that players who are just trying to get into Hydra, the normal player, is dealing with. There's no issue killing Hydra heads accidentally through Serpent's will. It just doesn't happen. And then the 100% instead, obviously it's never going to happen. This is a cool change though. If two heads come back, then only one gets Serpent will. I do like that a lot actually. There's been times where two heads come back and I'm not able to do something correctly and it just makes it a problem. So this is a good change. So we'll keep going past this. I like that.
Empowerment and mythical champions joining the fray.
There's no mythical champions in my account, so this is irrelevant to me. I don't care about the mythical champion shenanigans. I have one and I've used her. Let's go back to this video over here.
We were seeing Hydra heads nuked as soon as fight even, and bring back some of the challenge that's been lost due to the game.
We're going to skip the Serpent's will stuff. We're going to Digestion. This is very important, and this is where it gets really... This is where I just had to stop, basically. And it's like, no, this is taking a turn from nerfing Trunda to nerfing everybody's Hydra stuff.
Digestion and devouring. You know how late on in the battle your champions start getting digested on a 2-turn countdown? Well, for every subsequent time they get digested after that first 2-turn countdown, the damage you'll need to do to free your champion increases. Like with Serpent's Will, Digestion and Devouring lost much of its intended challenge over time as more powerful champions and features were introduced. It was always meant to be one of the Hydra's key mechanics and an ever-present threat, but it became really easy to rescue allies that were being digested. So, we're bringing that fear back into Digestion. Taunts won't help any
Digestion. That is not a good change, but it's not going to happen until very late in the fight. So when it gets later in the fight, your run's going to be more difficult to go to turn 1,000. But the issue is a lot of teams, what they do is if you're relying on like HP burn champions, if you're coming up through Hydra, HP burn is really good to use. And it's very difficult to free a champion where it is currently. Now, if you're going to the turn limit before, if you're still going to it now, then it's going to have a huge digestion meter, basically, and it's going to be even harder to overcome that. So I think that's horrible. I think there's really no reason to change that. For teams like mine that should go to turn limit 1,000, my Obero team, it's going to be harder for this one as well because I rely on one-shotting the champions to free them from the Hydra. I think that's fine to do. I don't see that as a cheesy strategy whatsoever, but now I may not be able to do that. I may have to actually click on a head to have Turvold free it and things like that. It just seems like an unnecessary change. I'm not really sure why it's even a thing. And then we get into things that are even worse of a, why are you changing this? It's kind of just silly. These are not anywhere near of a problem as Trunda, and these are what's being changed. So Taunt is what's next.
Anymore either. The Hydra has shed its thin skin, and petty insults will no longer distract it from a delicious champion meal sat right in front of it. In short, once a champion receives the mark of the Hydra debuff, they become public enemy number 1. And Taunt isn't going to do anything about it. Taunt is a cool mechanic.
All right, well, I'm just going to skip what he says. He has another minute of talking. But basically what Taunt's going to do now is instead, let's see this, I'll show you from here. It's easier to understand here. If a champion has a Taunt buff, the mark of the Hydra can only be placed on that champion. If a champion has a Taunt buff and another champion has a mark of a Hydra debuff, the devouring skill will ignore Taunt. So Taunt will prioritize champions, mark of the Hydra will prioritize champions with Taunt, but if a champion places Taunt after the mark of Hydra is placed, then the Hydra is just going to ignore Taunt. So instead of having champions that, can have infinite turns and never get eaten by any Hydra head, like the Wixwell team, Emic stuff, Taunt loop, all that's just been crushed, absolutely destroyed, which really were those a problem? I don't think so. Compared to Trunda, 100 billion damage, full auto, 200 billion clash points, whatever it may be, that's a lot of points. Wixwell teams, like the best ones, were pushing maybe 20 billion. Very, very good. But that's like perfect RNG. More realistically, it was between like 2 and 10 billion, which is still a lot of damage, but there's regular teams doing the same thing. So the taunt loops just aren't going to work. Granted, actually, no, you can't really do a Wixwell team without a taunt loop, not very easily, because you just need to keep taunt up, or your champion's going to get eaten. Without Odin or somebody to spread it, it's going to be difficult. But there's some shield changes as well, so let's get into that. Let's skip it to expose next. Then we have shields and Trunda changes, which is all we cared about. And expose next. This is what I was talking about at the beginning, about the, doing damage fast, and I really don't like this. Take a listen.
Expose necks are also getting a rework. From now on, Expose necks will have a set HP value that is double the original head's HP. Once that value reaches 0, the head will immediately regrow. With constantly regrowing Hydra heads, you'll need to think on your feet and have tactics in place for all potential scenarios. Oh, man, Hydra battles are about to get much tougher.
This right here is the single thing that makes me think this entire change was just to ruin Hydra teams. So if you don't understand why this is such a concern, check this out. I'll do a real quick example with my Hydra team. We'll throw my Hydra team on Brutal, okay? So my team is a team that I worked hard on. Like, I'd say this is a legit team. There's no cheese going on. It's just a high damage, solid team. But this team is going to struggle with this new update. The reason for this is because my champions are built to do big hits very fast. When there's an exposed neck, I'm going to destroy that exposed neck so quick that they're going to be spawning back with the 100% Serpent's Will, which is just going to make it even worse for me. For some reason, Thorion didn't place his block debuffs there, so I was not able to get the block debuffs and go through the Poison Cloud. I want to show this to you all. Maybe we'll let it play for a minute. Actually, no. This is very important because I think this is what's going to honestly mess up so many players. Like, more than anything else potentially, this is like the worst thing to have happen. If I can actually kill a head anytime soon, it'd be sweet. Let's actually just go to, I'll just give you an example on normal. I can kill the heads on normal very fast, but say you have a team doing a lot of damage, like this one. You can blow through this stuff very quickly. If you're using Thor, this is going to be an issue for you. If you're using Thor with great success, this is going to be a massive issue because Thor is a champion who, on his A2 ability, hits for some big numbers, right? That's the whole reason why that's why we're using him, right? But now he's not going to be hitting for those big numbers. Now, instead, he will still be hitting for those big numbers on those decapitated heads, but instead of having this infinite HP bar, where you can just keep sinking big numbers into it, so 282,000, that's not even a big hit. There's plenty of champions who can do 1 million plus per hit. You'll probably see Turvil do it in a minute, but you can see in that replay, a Mashald hit for like 480,000, took a big chunk. Now this will have the HP levels of 2 Hydra heads, which is quite a bit. Matter of fact, how much is that actually? I'm kind of curious because if it's not that much, and it may not even matter. Let's see, Hell Hades stages tool. We're going to go here and see. Okay, so if we go to Hydra, rotation 1, go to Nightmare, we have HP, so 5 million. So it'll be 10 million HP for the Head of Suffering, which is the biggest HP head, right? But it's 3 million. Is that really all it is? 3 million HP. Sorry, basically 3. So 6 million. My champions, I'm building them to hit for 1 million. That Turvil is going to destroy that head so quick that now this team that relies on heads being dead to just sink all my damage into is basically going to be ruined because of this ridiculous change. Why? Why is this what they're doing? It makes no sense. They're saying that your teams need to rely, unless I'm just misunderstanding something, which let me know if I am, but if they're saying your teams need to rely on speed to kill heads quickly, but the exposed necks now have an HP bar, you're going to be blowing up those heads super quick, and then they're going to come back with 100% damage mitigation, which you literally cannot kill through because it's going to mitigate all the damage. Unless they had a mechanic where HP burn ignored Serpent's Will or something like that, that could be pretty cool. But currently, even with Cursed, I imagine they ignore that damage. But now it's just, what's going on here? I mean, yeah, the heads, if they come back at the same time, one's not going to have the Serpent's Will. But this is really just a horrible change that completely messes up so many teams. It's ridiculous. Let's continue.
But the changes don't stop there. We've got a few more lined
Thank
up.
goodness, right? I need some more changes to go ahead and destroy more of the Hydra teams. And what's especially frustrating is that I've done a lot of takeovers for players. Now, of course, this is not my fault, and I'm sure a lot of players understand, but they're not free takeovers. Players have paid me for the takeovers. Even if you've never had a takeover purchase, you've done everything yourself, you've possibly paid to buy the champions, you invested your resources, but now those teams are quite possibly irrelevant or not doing nearly what they did before. Now, not doing as much damage isn't a huge deal as long as you're still getting your Hydra Clash chest, which I'm not trying to go on a huge rant here, but this is going to be far more difficult to hit than before, which sucks. But if you're still getting this stuff and you're still, getting your top chest, everything here, then it's not really that huge of an issue. But there's plenty of players who are not going to be able to get this. They say it's still going to be easy to hit. That's absolutely not true whatsoever. Absolutely not true. Because of the exposed necks more than anything. That's just ridiculous.
Balanced, starting with shields. Shields will now receive a cap of 1 million points. This cap is separate for shields placed by artifacts and shields placed by skills, though. So you could get up to 2 million points of shield. These caps are still big enough to ensure powerful builds remain viable for taking on the Demon Lord and the Hydra, but they'll not be as game-breaking as before. And lastly, we come to everyone's favorite dwarven warrior herself, Trunda.
So, out of curiosity,
don't worry.
Yannicka hits for, what is it? Let me see. I think it's 30% of the removed shields, right? So, 15% of the value of the removed shields. So let's see this. So if you have a shield value for 2 million points times 0.15, 15%, 300,000 damage. 300,000 damage is what a fully buffed up Yannicka is going to be hitting for. Well, at least Trunda's getting fixed, right? It doesn't matter, honestly, because Taunt is already screwed up and it's just irrelevant. So unless you had Odin or a champion who's spreading buffs, you're not going to be running Wixwell team anyways. To be honest, it was kind of an annoying team to run to begin with, but a lot of players did run it, pushed up big damage. Let's hear what the changes to Trunda are, though.
We're not nerfing her into oblivion.
Yeah,
We're
I
just
know.
rebalancing some of her skills to keep her damage numbers in Hydra battles more reasonable. Starting with her default skill, Golden Mallet.
We don't care
Trunda
about
will now
this.
have a 50% chance to place a second
Completely
skill.
irrelevant.
Cloak of Ages will now ignore 50% of each target's defense on her second hit. However, the caveat here is that it will only ever be a normal hit. It's still big damage, but it won't be quite as astronomical as they have been before. Forge Rhythm,
Okay.
Trunda's third skill, now places consistent HP burn
I think before it ignored all the defense, right? I think it ignored all your defense before versus that 50%. And I guess it could be crit as well. I forget all the mechanics. It was a really weird skill, so it should have been fixed a long time ago. But why not just start with that? Why not just start with that nerf, that change to Trunda?
debuffs, and both hits from this skill deal 50% more damage to enemies under a stone skin shield. Another neat boost to her overall kit. And finally, her passive skill now increases Trunda's attack by 5% for each stun or HP burn debuff she places on enemies. Her speed will still be increased as well, both by stun and HP burn debuffs. All in all, Trundle isn't going anywhere. We still expect her to be an excellent choice for Hydra battles and the arena. We tested a ton of early, mid, and late game champion
I hope that's
for Hydra battles and the arena. We tested a ton of early, mid.
Please don't tell me you're going to say that this is still very strong.
And late game champion rosters and team compositions when making these changes. Our results showed things will get better. You'll still be able to earn Hydra chests and milestone rewards in Hydra Clash. And you'll spend less time fighting the Hydra each week. As always, we'll be keeping an eye on your feedback and monitoring game data to see how these changes affect Hydra battles overall. We hope this preview has been useful for you and will help you prepare for more battles against Stone Reward.
These early, mid, and late game teams, I really hope these aren't the examples.
Results showed things will get better.
Do you see what they're using?
Hydra battles and the arena. We test mid and late game.
Early, normal Hydra, 4 minutes in, 245 million damage dealt. Yeah, you can still make it to 1 billion damage. This is a +4 Trunda. A +4 Trunda with a fully awakened Arbiter with intimidating presence. A +4 Gerptek, doesn't really matter what blessing he is though. And then Lydia with cruelty. This is like top of the line Trunda stuff here. Normal Hydra doing 245 million at 4 minutes. At 4 minutes, I had 4 billion damage. I'd have well over that on normal. It's a huge difference. Granted, having Trunda changed is not a problem. They have a lot of keys. Oh my goodness.
Game champion rosters and
Hard,
team
631.
compositions when making these changes.
And brutal, 7 minutes, 213.
Our results showed things will get better. You'll still
Nightmare, 279.
be able to earn Hydra chests.
Do I want Trunda to still be OP like she was? No. But do I want her to be, do I want everything to be changed? No. I don't understand why. It's like they threw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, instead of just fixing the one issue, they just threw everything, or throw the whole sink at it. Whatever the saying is a perfect one for this. But instead of, just fixing small issues, it's just fix everything. Let's change Hydra completely. Now, if this was something that they made a habit, it would get annoying. Actually, it would get very annoying. But I don't think I'd be as upset. But this is such significant changes. They just seem for the worst for everybody. I want to see what some of these comments say. You must respect that literally nobody is happy with this change. There's 1.7 thousand dislikes, only 700 likes. So you just made Hydra harder for the normal players that were already struggling. Yep, 100%. It's like they literally said, hey, the big whales, we're going to nerf Trunda, but we're going to nerf literally everything else so that Trunda is still going to be doing more damage than everything else anyways, probably. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But now instead of Trunda doing billions of damage more, it's going to be a couple billion damage more because you just can't get as high of damage, basically. I don't think they know what the word balance means. Yeah, they just do everything at this. So because the top level players were doing too well, you decide to screw over everybody below them. Yep. The issues they're trying to fix are not issues. For majority of players, Hydra and the exposed necks, maybe this is just an issue for me and a limited group of players where they're just going to blow through the exposed necks. Maybe it is. But I can guarantee that players aren't having troubles with Serpent's Will. Like, well, I have 100% damage reduction. It's just for Trunda stuff. But Digestion and Devouring, It's going to happen later in the fight anyways, I believe, for the bigger bar. That doesn't really matter too much probably for most players, but in general, the exposed neck thing, if you build a champion to hit hard, they just nerfed all big damage dealers, even a max HP champion, because the exposed necks take so much more damage. That's typically where the majority of your damage goes. Like, you build your teams around blowing up the heads to get to the exposed necks as soon as possible, and now it really doesn't matter because exposed neck, you're not going to do that much damage to it. It's just going to spawn a new head with Serpent's Will. So to summarize, 100% damage reduction from newly spawned heads. If you do too much damage on decapitated heads, they grow immediately. Taunt no longer works. Digestion gigabuffed. Turn count cut down, but damage requirements stay the same. Exactly. Why? That's another thing I even forgot to mention. I was so worked up on everything else. The damage count, the amount of damage you have to do to get the top chest is the same, but now you got to do it in 500 less turns. Does this matter for most players? No. If you are going to the max turns, you're probably getting the top chest anyways. Granted, 500 turns is a big difference, so it may not be the case. But for majority of players, it won't be an issue. But having 500 turns less is a big deal when you look at this. 500 turns left, that is a huge difference in overall Hydra damage. And since you need, 400 or 500 plus million damage total to get this, it depends on what difficulty you're doing, of course, but you need a lot of damage. It's going to be far harder now. It was easy before, to be fair, but, it depends on where your count's at, honestly. Messing with Taunt just killed any early mid-game accounts to do decent Hydra damage. I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, Taunt is significant. They shouldn't have changed it. But there's a lot more to Hydra than just the Taunt. I'd be interested in knowing how many players have Taunt Hydra teams that are completely destroyed by this. These changes are aimed at eliminating the clear domination of certain overpowered teams. You could have done that without doing all this. My raid not to-do list. Skip Live Arena, skip Hydra, skip Siege. My raid not to-do list. Oh. Wait. Doesn't want to skip Hydra, doesn't want to skip Siege, and doesn't want to skip Live Arena? Okay. That guy's cool voice makes the announcement feel 100 times worse. Yeah, it's rough. Let's see what Reddit has to say about this. So basically it made Hydra harder for the average player that was still struggling with it, while it won't change basically anything for those doing billions. It definitely will change a lot for those doing billions. It's a big change for them actually, but it's really hurting the normal players, like everyday players, like the players who don't have massive Trunda teams. It's really hurting them. Mostly surprised by the Taunt changes. Yeah, literally nobody wanted that. Playerium had literally said before that Taunt is working as intended, because initially when I think Bronco had noticed it, or whoever noticed it, doesn't really matter, but Playerium, we were like, this has to be a bug. This has to be broken. There's no way this should work like it is. And Playerium's like, no, this is actually working as it's supposed to. It's a counter for digestion. And now it's not working like it's supposed to. We're going to change that, while we also change Trunda. Now, I'm all for them addressing changes early. That's great. This isn't early, though. It's been a while. Trunda is definitely not early changes. So it's all been a long time, and now they're making the changes. Make them quicker. Make the changes quicker before players build all this stuff around it. People, thankfully, Wixwell is not adjusted for Clan Boss. That would be extremely, extremely frustrating. But it's ridiculous. Like all this Reddit stuff, Yannicka Hydra team from HH and Bronco Vid. Can I sub Nia? Well, now you can do nothing now because you're just not going to use it, basically. I wanna read that again, because I'm pretty sure it's not actually that big of a change. It sounded horrible to me at first, but I don't think it's actually that big of a deal. Hydra changes. Mark of the Hydra. Threat escalation. Devouring 1 to 4. Extra HP granted by digestion effects. No changes here. Devouring 5. Extra HP granted by digesting effect plus bonus HP depending on difficulty. Each subsequent time a champion is devoured after the minimum digestion countdown of 2 turns is reached, the amount of damage required to free a devoured champion increases. So, typically, it was each subsequent time a champion is marked, the countdown until devouring decreases by 1 turn to a minimum of 2 turns. Each subsequent time a champion is devoured, the digestion countdown decreases by 1 to a minimum of 2. So now it is each time a champion is marked, the countdown until devouring decreases by 1 to a minimum of 2. Each time a champion is devoured, the digestion countdown decreases by 1 to a minimum of 2. So the countdown starts pretty high at like 20, I think, on Nightmare. So this isn't like a hugely massive change. As long as you're freeing champions and keeping the momentum going, it sounds really bad. But once you get to late in the fight, digestion happens so quickly and champions just get one after another so fast that it's very difficult to even free them. So the run's going to basically end there anyways. So it sucks, but I don't think this is definitely not the worst part of it. Taking away taunt option, specifically telling people it was an intended feature, is unbelievable, 100%. I absolutely cannot stand that. So why don't we just delete taunt? Yeah, I mean, that's fair. This poor game design team is going to kill his game soon. Honestly, more players for him when his game gets launched. Trunda and Wixwell teams nerfed. Teams are now a lot more equal to each other. Seems like a great change to me, not to mention reducing the turn limit. Reducing the turn limit is good. Not reducing the damage is bad. Not reducing the damage you need to get the chest is bad. Reducing turn limit is fine, though. I don't like doing long teams. Heck, if it was 500 turns, lower damage requirement, I'd actually consider manual in my team. If I could manual in 30 minutes, it's not a big of a deal. But manualing for 2 hours, ridiculous. I mean, if you count cutting everyone off of the knees to fix 2 broken abilities, yeah, that's very true. Like champions built for high damage, completely nerfed. Like my Obero is nerfed. Every champion that I have that is not max HP is nerfed. Max HP champions don't have a huge change because, well, actually they do, I guess, because Marius is going to triple hit and just completely destroy the decapitated heads, basically. It's, we're really one of the worst communities in gaming. We're never happy. Tell me where the average player is running a double Yumiko Trunda team. What is this comment? We are really one of the worst communities gaming. We are never happy. That might be true, but this is not the only thing that's changed. Matter of fact, if this was the only thing changed, fine. That's okay. A lot of the whales knew it was going to happen, expected it, should have happened a long time ago. If Trunda, honestly, just change the way the points are done. This is something that was talked about a long time ago. Change the way the points are done. Trunda teams can do billions of damage. People like seeing billions of damage. That is not the issue. The issue is how the points are scaled. If you just had all these clans, say I got the number 1 most Hydra damage of everybody, well, now I just get, 500 points. And then number 2 gets 475. I have no clue how the numbers would work out, but that would give our clan points. So then we want everybody participating, everybody doing good damage. And then if you have a Trunda team doing 100 billion, that's still a sick Trunda team. You worked hard for that. You spent the time doing it. That's cool. I don't think that's so much as the issue. It's how the damage is calculated. When you can do a Trunda team on Nightmare, get ×4 clash points, and you're doing 100 billion plus, now you're getting 400 billion clash points. That is where it breaks the game. Letting players do these high numbers is not a problem. It's a problem when it affects the competitiveness of the game. Like Clan Boss. Nobody cares if a team is broken and doing 600 million damage on Clan Boss. Nobody cares. Like, yeah, that's awesome. You're doing good. You 600 million damage. That is awesome. Congratulations. That's a cool thing to see. But the next clan beside us doesn't care. Oh, Motor Breath did 609 million damage. We can't compete with that. You're not competing with it to begin with. You're letting players actually come in and actually unlock Ultra Nightmare for their clan because they're using a Wixwell team. That stuff's cool. It could be the same exact thing in Hydra. With Hydra Clash, it makes it a little bit different. But in general, I mean, there's other ways to have gone about this. And I think Plarium went about it basically one of the worst ways they could have. This is one of the longest rant videos I've made in a long time. But coming off the back of a Deck of Fate that was very, very crappy, super sketchy point distributions for this, coming off of a fusion into the Deck of Fate. I mean, dang. Plarium's making some very questionable decisions as of lately, and I don't know. It's not looking good. It is not looking very good. It doesn't get me excited. This Hydra stuff especially is very frustrating because, like I said, I know how many players invest time and money into their stuff, and being somebody who does offer account takeovers as a service, I feel bad that teams that I built just aren't going to function as well as they used to, and not by a little bit, possibly by a lot, which is not good. Granted, player going to sold the pack, so they're in a much different situation than me, much more to blame, because they just basically made so many teams irrelevant by this little change. So I was hoping to come in here and be happy and excited for this update because I've seen some positivity around it. Yeah, it's good that Trunda's getting fixed. That is good. She is broken. But I'm going to have to see how much the fix actually changes, because if Trunda's here and the other teams are here, and now everything's brought down to here, now Trunda might be a little bit closer, but I still think she's going to be doing a lot of damage, which is fine. She can still do a lot of damage, but I'm just wondering how much it has affected all the other teams that were legit. Like, nobody ever, at least not me, I never thought this team would be affected. There's nothing cheesy about this team. This is a team that I had worked on for a while. It's full auto. It's done over 1 billion damage on Brutal, I think it was. Yeah, it's a sick team. But it's getting nerfed. Quite a bit, actually. Because when those heads come back, I could used to kill the heads through Serpent's Will, but now I can't. And now I'm going to destroy the exposed necks so fast. I mean, if it's double the Hydra head's HP, I mean, we're looking at 10 million HP. My Turvold hits for 1 million plus damage on a double hitter. Takes no time at all to kill that head. That's just him. Thorion's hitting for 300,000 plus. Obro's doing the same thing. Mikage's doing ally attacks. So we just constantly have the damage going out, and the exposed necks are just gonna fall so quick. Probably. That's on the Head of Suffering. Now you're talking about Mischief with a measly 6 million HP. Basically a double hit from a lot of these champions. The Teox teams, completely nerfed. Teox teams where the champion, or Thor. Thor is nerfed. Literally any champion doing big damage is not max HP capped is going to get nerfed with this. Unless I'm completely missing something. All right, guys. Well, that is enough of a rant this morning. I actually expected this video to be like 10 minutes or less. It is, in fact, not 10 minutes or less. It is way longer. But man, let me know what you guys think about all this stuff. I appreciate you guys sticking around to the end. Hopefully you enjoy it. For this, let's go see what I actually collected as far as stone skin stuff goes. It's blowing my mind. The more I think about it, why, how, what for? We wanted one champion fixed, asked about it forever, and instead of doing a small change, they do this huge thing. Like I said, big damage numbers are cool. I'm all for that. I like pushing speed teams. I like pushing all that stuff. Just change the way the points are distributed. Hydra has been worked on for so long and theory crafted and optimized for so long that so much of this stuff is now just thrown away. If Hydra was released with the idea that, hey, this may be something that's changing every couple months, all right, that's fine. Now we have this expectation set that Hydra's gonna be changing every couple months. New strategies are gonna be in, old strategies are gonna be out. Okay, I don't really love the time investment for that, but we're giving a heads up. It's not the case. This is a huge change. Not to mention that there's going to be bigger heads coming, well, other heads coming eventually as well, as far as I'm aware, assuming the plan's still on track. So I guess we'll see, guys, but this is a long enough video for a rant. I'm going to see if I can get a triple roll speed on this. No. In fact, did not. So, guys, thank y'all for watching. I love and appreciate all of you. Best of luck, and catch you in the next one.